So hello everyone, welcome to November Aspen Gathering. It is already November, cannot believe it. So let me go ahead and drop a link into the chat for this month's agenda if you don't already have it up. Okay, so I just popped the link to this month's agenda in the chat. So you can take a look at kind of what's on the docket for today. We are going to start off with new business. So the first thing on our new business item is we have Karma in Slack. So you might have seen maybe some of us Bywater staff handing out what we call Karma. It's kind of a add-on in Slack where you can just award people a point of karma. It's just a feel-good thing, recognizing contributions to the community or when someone helps you out. If you have been keeping up in the general Slack channel, Cal kind of explained how we use it at Bywater, which is it's kind of embedded in our internal culture where we're constantly just giving each other kudos via the karma system. And it's just a fun little extra thing. So if you want to learn more about how to give up karma out to people, just ask us in the Slack channel or ask us right now, I guess. Does anyone have any questions about that? Is anyone here not in the Slack channel yet? I think most of the people here are.
And Mark just showed us how to do it.
Yeah, I saw those notifications. Yeah, so if you haven't been in our Slack channel and you would like an invitation, because I don't think I've seen Dorothy or Vicky in there yet. So if you want an invitation, just reach out to us and we're more than happy to add you to the Slack channel. It's just a nice way to talk to other library partners and get help and advice from them. And also, of course, to talk to and interact with Bywater staff too. Okay. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, the karma stuff. So let's get on to the report on our first Aspen community meeting. Oh, Vicky says, sign us up. All right, we will. I'll send you an invite, Vicky and Dorothy. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to Sam and Tara.
All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going today? So yeah, I think looking around this room, there were a lot of familiar names from that meeting to this one. So I won't spend a ton of time on this, but we had our organizing meeting on October 28th, had a pretty good turnout. We tried to set up some goals, what the goals for the Aspen community are. Some of the themes were helping one another out, finding a way to share best practices. There was, a contingent that's kind of all about documentation, and another contingent about sharing, just trying to spread the gospel that is Aspen's awesomeness, and trying to figure out what communication methods. Talked a little bit about Slack. And then Tara, if you want to, or do we say it Tara? Tell me how that is.
You did it right. It's Tara.
Tara, okay. Tara, if you'd like to kind of take over the poll and fill in the holes.
Yes, this may be like the least interesting, but business end of the things that's still important is how often do we meet? And there was not a clear consensus, which is maybe to be expected. Except on, I think most people answered they would like to meet every other month, alternating with this meeting. And then as far as days of the week, it was pretty close between Tuesdays or Thursdays. And most people seem to prefer a morning time, like 9 and 10 were the most popular times, followed by 11 and noon. So anyway, I don't know how we decide, but maybe we just leave it to the Bywater folks since you'll have to send someone to those meetings.
Yeah, that is kind of split up pretty evenly in the results. Yeah, and Dorothy mentions
Yeah.
time zones are also probably an issue.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry when I say I meant 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah,
The time zones
yeah.
really broke my
I
brain.
I know we love Aspen, but yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific would be like what? Oh yeah, 9 a.m. Eastern would be like some ungodly hour on the West Coast. So um so I heard you mention that maybe every other month for the community meeting. It looks like people were into that. So were you thinking of having that in addition to the Aspen gathering, or like one month is everyone and then the next month is community? Or were there any thoughts on that?
So from what I recall, my political speak, I think the feeling was that it would alternate every other month with this meeting, perhaps. But again, no strong, like, no thou shalt.
Okay. I don't know. What do we think about that on the Bywater team? Maybe that's just something we'd have to discuss. Or...
I think so. And we've also internally been discussing combining the Aspen updates in an instant with this meeting. So there's just one meeting, one monthly. So I'm sure we're open to having these meetings every other month, but we just need to figure out what to do with those, how we want to handle the updates in an instant. But nothing, just conversations, nothing that's not solvable. We want to have the meetings that are valuable for everyone else. So if some of that, if that's the right balance, then I think that's the right balance.
But for me, one of the things I like is regular monthly communication in one venue or another. I think if it's short of that and someone misses one, then it feels like, gosh, it's been 3 months, 4 months since I talked to anyone about this stuff. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to keep, something going on monthly just so that we're in communication with everyone about updates and community things. Since I wasn't at that meeting, how are you all planning on, how do you keep in touch in between meetings? Are you using Slack primarily or email?
There was some disagreement, but I think most of them a group talked about using Slack as kind of in between communications.
If I recall, with the understanding that if you were not a Slack user, we could help you set it up with email so that you would get email messages, because that was the thing with Slack, if I remember correctly.
Mark and I explored that afterwards, and it would appear that unless you install a third-party thing that costs money, it won't email it to you. It will email you your direct messages and something where you've been tagged, but as far as like getting all the discussion, it won't email that unless somebody knows something that we don't.
Okay. So it looks like, or it sounds like there's just a couple little details to work out, but yeah, we're looking forward to hearing what everyone decides. Just keep us, posted in the Slack channel or email, just so that we know what's going on. Do you have a goal date by when you plan to figure out the next meeting time?
No, we did not discuss that.
Okay, it's a totally new thing. We're trying to get it started. It's getting started is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the next step is to just pick a pick a time. Yeah, and kind of figure out the schedule, and then maybe in the new year we could start. It's like a nice milestone to start start the community meetings up again.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, new year, new us, new start. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for the updates. And we really look forward to just seeing that group grow more and more. And if anyone is just signing in and isn't aware of what we're talking about that Aspen community meeting, which is just people from the libraries that are using Aspen, and probably at least one Bywater representative as well, just to hang out and see what's going on. But those meetings are driven by just you, all of you. So if you want to get involved and try to make an impact on the Aspen community and help out, just reach out to one of us at Bywater or head onto the Slack channel, and you can ask for more information there if you want to get involved. Oh, any other questions or comments about the community meetings? Cool. All right, well then let's move on to, because we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. I believe I'm turning this over to Jordan to talk about the Aspen Roadmap. So take it away.
Yes. And if you read the agenda very carefully, it says roadmap preview, because one of the things that we wanted to do with all of you, either in this meeting or as part of the community or both, is develop the roadmap together. But this is in response to the desire to see what's coming, some transparency into our process. So that's what we're giving you today. What you're seeing right now is definitely not the final version of the roadmap. One of the things we're actively doing is trying to figure out the right tool so that what we show you with the roadmap maybe integrates with our ticketing system and it all kind of plays nicely together. I would like for this roadmap to be accessible outside of the meeting long term. Unfortunately, as it turns out, we can't do that yet, but I just want to let you know what our goal is. Okay, so with Aspen, we are thinking a release at a time. So we do planning for a release where you have some tentative planning for the next release. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit and you'll see kind of next quarter, next year. If we're working on the release right now, we're going to be much more specific about what we're working on. Whereas if you get down to next year, these are vague ideas. We're going to talk about these vague ideas later in the future prioritizing discussion. But we go from very specific to broader, and then as a group, we can narrow them over time. The things that you're seeing on here are also only things that are like big initiatives. This is far and away not everything that we're doing. And if you really, obviously this is much briefer than the release notes that you get. So this is intended for community conversation, community planning, and transparency into what we're doing at these meetings. So if you look at the top, Aspen 21.15, these are a couple of things that we're working on. These are the things that we expect to be released as part of 21.15. I would also say that if you're used to working with vendors that show you a roadmap a year in advance, that's not what we're going to do, because we're going to be working, we'll be planning a year in advance. Planning and a solid roadmap are two completely different things. But we want to be working with you to make micro adjustments to that roadmap so that it meets your needs. I can't pretend that I know what your needs are going to be a year from now. And I think we all learned that with COVID, right? All of a sudden, we're going to be talking about curbside later. All of a sudden, we had to change. So this is kind of designed so that we have transparency, you have input, we can be flexible, and we're going kind of big picture, the further out, to smaller picture, the more near term we are. So Aspen 21.5, we have some work for patron self-registration that's coming in. We have some work for Overdrive API updates. This is the work that many of you receive notification from Overdrive that they're changing their APIs. So this is what we have to do in order to meet the requirements that they're putting on us. By the way, as long as we can, we will make using this new functionality from Overdrive a configuration option for you. So until they turn off the old APIs, you'll have the option of which one to use. We also had a library that was really, really wanting donation support. And for us, it made a lot of sense to do this right now and to be able to release it early in December. So just so you know, this is coming. If you have any libraries that are wanting to push donations towards the end of the year. December is a great time to push donations. We will have donation support. And what donation support really is the ability to give the library money without a library card, without having to sign in. There's a way that you can donate. We also have a couple libraries that, as a requirement of coming onto Aspen, they either had single sign-on or two-factor authentication. We're working with those libraries to get that set up, and we will share how that works. And anybody that's using the same kind of method will be able to also turn on this functionality. Something that we're working on for the app, and again, we want to be starting to get more of your feedback here, so these are more the things that you're bubbling up to the top. So we'll be talking about app priorities later. Our dismissible browse categories. We don't need to be advertising children's books to somebody that is not a child. So I'm just giving people the ability to say, nope, not interested in that. And of course, they would have the ability to bring it back later if they wanted to. The other thing that we're looking on is adding lists and saved searches to the homepage as browse categories. So if you have libraries that have a saved, or if you have patrons that have a saved search, you would have the option for them to see that as a browse category. If there's a new thing at the top of that saved search, they would see those new things. Same thing for lists. I'm going to pause. Any questions about what we're looking at for 21.15? Again, all the little bug fixes and things that you've been talking with us individually about, those aren't included here. These are just the new features. Is there anything in the chat?
I had one question about the dismissible browse categories. Is there any way to track the number of times a browse category has been dismissed? It's totally a tiny thing.
No, it's a tiny thing, but it's a kind of a cool thing, because why are you spending your time building browse categories if everybody's dismissing it, right? Like, there's completely a use case for that. No, but I think that's a great idea. And one of the things that excites me about planning the way that we are, if we can get ahead of the train a little bit, is we can get those good ideas when we're in the planning phases for features. So that's, again, part of the goal of working a little bit ahead too. But I think that's a great idea. And I know both of our developers are on the call and they heard it. So. Let's see. In the search, Vicky says, save search as a browse category is seriously cool, and hooray for dismissing browse categories. So yay, glad we're choosing right for now. But like we say, we want your input to make sure that we're bubbling up those things. Okay, so you can always switch back. I move pretty quickly sometimes. So if you have a question that goes back to 21.15, like, don't be shy, just bring it up, whatever's coming to your mind. So we do have coming up with 2 libraries that are on the Evergreen ILS. So that's really exciting for us. And a lot of our, some of our development time is going to be working on that Evergreen implementation late this year and early next year. So I have Evergreen implementation part 1. Morgan has been doing a lot of work on help documentation. And I know that some of you have seen that. And we are working to make that searchable, and we're figuring out how we're going to do that right now. But the goal is to make that, get that together, or at least a plan for that together in January of 2022. I know that we're planning on having it done by the end of December. We don't yet have a plan for how we're going to get it out to you, but that's what we're working on. If you remember 21.15, our e-content vendors love to switch stuff up on us all the time. And we have to just do it, right? And it's always good for you, almost always good for you. Support for binge pass titles from Hoopla is next. Hoopla is releasing a new format called a binge pass, and Aspen needs to recognize it so that you guys can use it appropriately. So they notified us of that this week. So, and I believe it's coming out, I think early January. So we're going to be, if we can, and if, again, these are always like communicating with that vendor, if we can, we'll get that work done for January 2022. And then here is one I'm excited about, the planning for the sharing Aspen templates and content. This is where we still kind of need to formally say that this is what we want to work on next. But what we're hearing from the community, what I've heard from all of you, what we talked about at the Aspen gathering last time, is we want to be able to share templates for placards. I've heard translations. We'll talk about what exactly are your priorities for sharing, but we'll start talking about how that's going to work. So that's tentative. Everything, the higher up on this list it is, the more solid it is, the lower, the more tentative it is. But that's what we're looking at for January 22. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, there's some questions in the chat.
Okay, let's see. What is self-registration? So this is where the patron can come and sign up for a library card. They don't have to come into the library. And we do that a couple different ways, and I'm going to defer to Eddie or Morgan to talk about that if we have questions. But that's that basic functionality. So it's making sure that it works the same. Well, not the same, with similar or the same functionality across all of our ILSs.
Okay, I just have a quick question about that as well. Does it verify addresses in any way? Is there like a component to that, or could anybody just go in and self-register for a card without address verification?
I'm going to answer unless somebody wants to stop me. Otherwise, you can correct me. So it does. We don't do any address verification at this time, unless you are doing patron self-registration through your ILS and your ILS does it. Although I don't believe that any do, but somebody that knows for sure, can you correct me?
Yeah. So yeah, you're correct. This is not address verification at this point. It's a lot of the we support a bunch of different ILSs, so trying to get them all functional and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of sending emails for that verification step.
Mm-hmm.
What
about syncing something up like Patron Point to it?
You can certainly, and we do have a few users using Patron Point now, where we just, I believe, and Addie and Morgan can correct me again if I'm wrong, but that send people out to Patron Point for the self-registration. So you can currently say, here is the URL to use during self-registration. So
understood. All right, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, this is getting that verification emails and that kind of thing. So
got it.
Yeah.
Vicky says in the chat that we use self-registration and get a daily report that we use to verify eligibility. And Lauren from Click says that's what they do too. So yep, there's ways to do it, but I do understand the desirability of that address functionality, and where I've seen it working, it's really cool. And we have an integration with Kipu as well, right? That does that quite well. So if that's what you want, talk to us and put in a ticket, ask us what the options are, and we will work with you on seeing what we can do between your ILS and the other vendors that we support.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Jonathan from Arlington says we use Aspen for patrons to self-register. For temporary card and Koha ILS, we require a patron to confirm address in person to get the full privilege account. Yep. We can do that, the levels of different types of accounts too. Okay, Aspen next quarter. So this is sorry.
Sorry, there is one more question before we move on. James had a question a little higher up.
Okay, James is asking, is this Aspen providing two-factor authentication or instead integrating with some two-factor authentication setup in some ILSs? This is Aspen integrating with, oh, Mark, just tell me unless I'm forgetting. It's one of the Microsoft ones.
Yeah, the Microsoft single sign-on. I forget the
Is it
acronym.
we're talking to the left.
Yeah, Microsoft Azure. Yeah, so it's going to be doing that. And they've got the two-factor authentication. So we'll see as we go.
And again, I think the intention with planning a little bit further out is to say, hey, we've heard this a couple times. We know that a couple people are interested in two-factor authentication. Let's all come together and see what we want to support as the first round of two-factor authentication integration, and where we go from there. So right now we're still having a little bit of the this is what we're doing, because we've been talking to partners individually. What we want to do is bring everybody together so we can come up with a solution that meets as many people's needs as possible. But keep in mind, whatever we do, of course, develop is available to everyone. So if you use those technologies or it's that ILS, it's obviously available to you. Did I miss any other slacks or any other? Okay, chats, good. Okay, so then planning, we kind of think, okay, what are the next two releases? What's coming in the next quarter? Evergreen implementation is going to take longer than a release, so we know we're going to be doing that. Improvements to diacritics. This might be, again, a longer term project. I think we're going to get as many as we can because we're getting a lot of questions about diacritics from a number of libraries, but it's a little bit of a tricky one just because of the way the diacritics are. So we'll get as many as we can, and then we'll kind of look and see, okay, are we still having some diacritics things and fixing those? But that's something we're looking at. Sharing Aspen templates and content part 1. Again, that's assuming that's what we as a community decide the next thing we want to work on is, then we would start to develop it sometime in the next quarter to get that out to you. And then making the LIDA app available for individual Aspen partners. So right now you get the LIDA app for free as it is, and all the updates that we provide to the general app. We do want to make the app available for an individual library so that you can go to the App Store and search for your library and get your library app, and they don't have to know LIDA, that kind of thing. This one is a little bit of a special case. So because of the work that is involved with us pushing all of those versions of the app out, this is one of the very few exceptions that we make to charging extra for something. So libraries are asking for it, so we want to be able to provide it to you, but because of the additional work, that is something that will require an additional charge. We don't like to, it just happens sometimes, like in order to make sure we can actually do the work. And again, tentative, we find out something that is a higher priority for you, or pandemic, the next wave of the pandemic comes, we all need something else, or whatever disaster happens, we can change. We can be agile enough to do what's right for the library. So any questions on anything we've mentioned for next quarter? Okay, I'm not even going to get down into next year because we're going to talk about next year as a group. Because this is not accurate. This came from the Aspen Roadmap, actually, that we had online. We had a little roadmap. I don't know if most of you knew it was there. And a couple of things from partners, but I want to review this list together as a group, and we'll add to it. And then I'm going to send out a survey where all of you can kind of tell us what your priorities are, what like rank these things against each other. Okay. A little bit more, a few other things in what we're doing with development and Aspen. We have a lot. We are getting so many good ideas from all of you, and that is an amazing and awesome thing. We're trying to figure out the best way to prioritize them, the best way to get all of you the things that you need for your libraries. All of these features, I do want to say, are supported as part of your annual subscription. So we're going to talk about things that are specific for one library, maybe a few libraries, but if you wanted that feature and it works for your library, you can have it. Okay, so when we think of development, we divide it into 3 categories. These group initiatives, this is what we want to talk about. This is the sharing of the placard templates. These are things that benefit all or most of our partners. This is where we want your prioritization. And this is what, when you pay your subscription cost to Aspen, this is what you're paying for. Like, we're going to continue reinvesting that in the development and in future features. We also recognize, and we're getting a lot of requests for things that a specific partner needs. Or so Mark mentioned with that self-registration, that's maybe something to make sure that all the ILSs are the same, or a feature needs, or a partner needs just one feature. So we've also had partners coming to us and say, hey, I have some money, I really want this done. Can you get this done for me? And we want everybody to be happy, basically. So we're trying to investigate ways that we can, if you're coming to us and saying, we have money, we want this feature, we can develop a community of developers that can, where we can say, yeah, we can get that done for you. We know this person, they know Aspen. We'll figure out a way to make that work while we're still getting all of the things done that benefit libraries. So again, if anybody pays for development separately, we all benefit from it. And this is also a future option. This is an option that we are looking at right now in order to get more development for everyone and for the libraries that have that grant money or have that money from friends of the library. And it's also better for Aspen because then we have a much broader group of developers that know how to use it and know how to build good things for it. And then I like mentioning the everything else bucket because I think if If you're not in the kitchen seeing how the soup is made, it's easy to forget about all these things that take a lot of our time. So we do a lot with code maintenance to make sure that Aspen is secure. We do fix our bugs to the best of our ability and try to prioritize those. We optimize the code and we do some development that supports efficiency of support. So Mark will develop things that makes it easier and faster for us to figure out what's going on for you when you ask us questions. And that's just normal stuff. But it does take some of our time, and I just like mentioning it because sometimes it can be significant. So the reason we're bringing this up is because we're going to prioritize group initiatives. For those of you that have asked us about paid development, we're working on it. We're working on getting that pool of developers, and we do lots of other stuff too that you know about if you read the release notes. Any questions there or comments? Okay. A quick thing that I wanted to mention about our development tickets. As part of organizing this, and we've gotten a lot of questions like, when is this getting done? Like where are we in the priority list? We want to be a little bit more transparent about when something is being worked on for those Aspen Discovery developments. So if you have a development request and it has a status of on hold, as a lot of them do right now, and most of them do, that's where it's going to be until we have it kind of in the schedule. Until someone is working on it or ready to work on it, we're going to have it on hold. When we're ready to, and so what we're going to do with those tickets is if they're assigned to Mark, and most of them are, and we have some assigned to Kirsten, we're going to assign them to a shared account that we'll monitor, but you'll know that nobody's actively working on them because they're not assigned to a person. So when we're ready to work on them, they're going to be assigned to a person, and then they'll show as open or needs info or whatever those normal statuses are. Longer term, again, we're investigating tools. We want to make some of these development requests more visible to all of you so that you can vote on them or say, ooh, I want that too. That's a great idea. Like that's part of the goal with the software we're trying to figure out. But for right now, this is our solution. We're going to assign them to a person that is not a person, just an account that will monitor, but you'll know it's being worked on when it's assigned to a person. If you have a question, like I said, we're monitoring this, just respond to the ticket. And all of us will get an email on it, and we can look into it for you, and we can talk to you about that. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up. We're going to be taking those tickets that are assigned to a person and assign them to an account so that you know when they're being worked on. I'm going to pause again for questions. I'm going to hope that that was clear and not that I'm boring everyone and they're asleep right now. Okay, Aspen Roadmap. So this is the fun part. And this is where what I want to do today is get a list of the features that you want on the roadmap. So I'm going to actually escape out of here so that we can see and edit this. And these are the things that I'm going to ask you to rank as part of your top features, and then we're going to see what everybody wants. But right now, because you are all the awesome people that come to the Aspen Gathering, you get a chance to add things to the list. So things that were already on the list or that were recommended just in kind of one-on-one conversations are improved statistics. And we would work together as a group to define what improved statistics means. It's not like, you know, the Bywater team going off into a corner and making these decisions. We want to talk to you about it. EBSCO host integration. As a reminder, we have EDS integration. We don't have EBSCO host integration. The shared placard templates, shared translations. If you're thinking, ooh, I really want shared whatever, like now's the time to put it in the chat or speak up. Curbside pickup support, we have people asking for. And then events and calendar, again, we'll define what this means. We have some integrations right now. This could either be additional integrations, it could be basic functionality within Aspen, or it could be a combination of both. So who wants to add to this list for something that they want to see and get everyone else's feedback on for 2022? Uh-oh.
What about shared web builder templates?
Awesome.
And Jordan, when you say curbside pickup support, what does that exactly mean?
So it can mean a couple, again, we're going to work on it together. So I'm just going to keep saying that. Within Koha, so for Koha libraries, there is a curbside pickup module.
Right.
So it would, in all likelihood, integrate with that. But if there's interest across all of our libraries, we would figure out how to support that for everyone. It wouldn't work. It might work a little bit differently. I can't say how it would work because we have to talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on the EBSCO host integration?
Yes. So this, Mark, you know more about the APIs than I do for EBSCO host. Would this allow, and we could talk about having separate search results that return articles. We could talk about returning databases. This is figuring out the right level of depth for EBSCO and what makes sense for your patrons. But Mark, I know you've looked at them, so I'm gonna pause and let you talk.
And sorry, I was slightly distracted there. Yeah, so we're looking at kind of everything that we can do with it. Our understanding from looking at that and comparing to the EDS, it would be similar kind of functionality to the EDS, obviously different content and that kind of thing. But it would look a lot like the EDS integration. So it'd be a separate result with Explore More and that kind of thing. What other questions were there? Sorry.
Really, my question if it's sort of like bypassing EDS.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the idea would be you would not need an EDS integration. My understanding is that there is a loss of not all content that is available in EDS is available in EBSCO host. I believe that they only include EBSCO content, but you would not need an extra subscription to EDS. So it should be a big money saving.
And maybe potentially open the door for other things like Gale or ProQuest in a single.
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some of those other ones, like we can look at all of those APIs and we'd probably do them all in the same way. Most of those don't allow us to index the content. So we're just kind of doing a live search of those sources without being able to index the content.
Something for us that actually is higher priority to us, at least, than the shared placard templates is, I guess I would call it placards in consortia. So dealing with how to have multiple placards for a particular search term, or have multiple placards for where maybe each library's take on the same database is a little bit different, to be able to copy placards and create new ones that way.
Yeah, we
So
had
I
another
would-
comment in the chat about from Heidi requesting the ability to copy or clone placards. So I think that goes along really well with that.
In the survey, I'm going to call that placard enhancements, and then we get to decide what those placard enhancements are as a group. So if you're seeing placard enhancements in the survey, that's what that means. I feel like we're on the right track with the roadmap because we said we were going to work on sharing stuff, and like that's what it feels like we want to work on. So I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good. Like that we guessed right, which is good. I still want our data, I still want our survey, but yay for guessing right.
Is there anyone else, I don't know, using something like, I think Easy Proxy is more common, but we're using Open Athens for sign on to our databases. And we've definitely, I know we've already talked with Bywater about Open Athens integration, but it kind of ties into the multi-factor authentication, single sign-in type of work. I don't know if anyone else has interest or is using kind of a service like we are to manage that. But could potentially give your patrons like a true single sign-on with your EBSCO resources or whatever else you have integrated into the catalog.
I like how you called that true single sign-on. We can hijack that for the survey. And Sam says, State of Utah is moving towards open Athens, impacting all of Bywater's or current Aspen sites in Utah. I do have an open spot on the survey too, where you can say more. So if you have something where you're very interested in a specific aspect of something, so if it says true SSO and you really want to use eProxy, like you can add, please, I'm encouraging you to add those comments there too. What else for discovery? Cool, I will add those. So next I want to talk about LIDA. There wasn't a roadmap for LIDA. We need to talk about it, right? We need to talk about now that you have it in your hands and you can play with it. And I'm sure, I know the ideas are coming in because we're getting tickets on the ideas, which is great. And I haven't seen all of those LIDA ideas. So apologies if they didn't all make it onto this page. But here's a couple. So thinking notifications, what can we do with notifications? How do they interact with Aspen notifications? And notifications can kind of mean whatever you want them to mean here. We're going to decide on it together. Mark, before I promise that we can do the entire world with notifications, we might run into some ILS limitations. So there might be some road bumps there or even some blockers. So I don't want to pretend like we can do everything, but we've done a lot. So we can. Do you have anything you want to say about notifications before I get us in trouble?
No, I think, yeah, we've got notifications. It's just really broad. So there's ILS notifications. There's notifications for like what we use system messages for now. Also, there's just lots of notifications. So yeah, we'll narrow that down more.
I see a comment in the chat that says the display still cuts out the rounded corners of my iPhone. That would be a bug. So that's one of the things that we want. If you've submitted it, thank you. If you have not, please do. And that's something that we're going to try to be fixing even outside of this. Like bugs, we don't want problems. Like we want to fix problems, but we're not. It's a kind of a separate weighing in terms of like awesome new features and things we have to do to make it work the way it's supposed to. I have a comment that says, where do we submit this? So with the recording, Cal will be sending out a link to the survey. I have it over here. I can't give it to you right now because I have to enter all the lovely suggestions. But that will be coming probably tomorrow. We'll make sure it's in Slack. We'll make sure it comes out with the meeting recording, all the places you normally get content. And I'll say it now instead of talking about it at the end, like you can have as many people as you want fill out that survey. We do ask for your library, if you're a member of a consortium, your consortium, and your name and contact info. So we can kind of, because we're not saying one response per library, we do want to know, whose feedback we're getting, but it's open. So we want everybody's feedback. Let's see, okay, that's Mark saying bug reports for LIDA can all go in the normal ticketing system for Bywater. Thank you, Mark. Next, rating reviews for LIDA. LIDA doesn't currently support ratings and reviews. Filtering and facets for search, that we do have good search that returns good search results, but no way to filter it or facet off of it right now. And then one of our library partners suggested self-checkout using the app. Those of you that have RFID, there can be some trickiness here, but if you're not using RFID especially, and maybe even if you are, all things considered, like we might be able to figure this piece out, the ability to check out books in the library, like basically where your phone is a self-checkout machine in and of itself. What else do you want for LIDA?
I actually just sent this in today, but we noticed the sort of hold functionality is a little bit different in LIDA versus kind of web-based Aspen, where you don't have that kind of group level holds. They're all at the individual record level, and especially for a consortium like us with just tons of records attached to stuff, that group level hold just really helps people get stuff faster. We think it might be actually limiting the number of our transits, which would be amazing if that turns out to be. So yeah, I think just kind of looking at that holds functionality. Yeah, and then I know one thing our libraries will ask about, I don't know if this has already been brought up, but things like adding like so sort of mirroring like the custom menu links that are in Aspen and the app, having those things to like, I don't know, whatever, like their archive, archive collections or a special community, whatever links that people include in the menus, that kind of thing.
Okay. What else? Sam says, use the app to perform the checkout for e-content. Overdrive, Hoopla, etc. Holds are a great step. I thought we did that. I guess we're still missing the checkout for e-content. You might have just reported a bug.
No, that should all be there as of the latest. Yeah, go update the app.
My brains to go back to discovery. How about the ability to exclude filter results from Aspen search results? The ability to exclude Hoopla from results. For example, I will add that over here. This is something that's personally the librarian in me kind of lights up, because there's always this debate on advanced search, and I don't like advanced search for public library patrons, especially because nobody does advanced search except for librarians, right? So, but if we can create a UI that helps the average user kind of build those really powerful searches in a way that's usable, that's interesting to me. And I think that using facets to exclude content is a step in that direction. So I think that's cool. Open. It looks like I missed something. Sorry, Vicky, I missed your idea. I lead an idea farther up in the chat. I am scrolling up. Okay. Scrolling, Vicky, sorry. Different browse categories and lists for Lita that we use in Aspen and to arrange them differently. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to say different browse category options. And, I think that's a really interesting thing too, because in the app, when we're talking about browse categories that are for saved searches or lists, and you're already logged into the app, there might be an advantage there to using those more on the app than on the regular interface. Okay, Tara.
Sorry, I just dumped those in from Scott, who couldn't make it to this meeting.
Oh, awesome.
In case he had any things from the cataloging side to add in to the discussion.
Okay, so Scott says, through Tara, well, I definitely would like to see work done to acknowledge groups where title and author match, but there are further considerations like abridgments and additions that really should remain ungrouped. A way to accomplish that. So I'm going to call that grouped work refinements. Okay, and Scott also says, and work to smooth out display title generation, how it chooses foreign language titles, okay, and how it chooses subtitles from not edition of a book. Okay, I grouped work refine. I'm going to leave those two together under group work refinements.
Captures it.
Cool. Either category, discovery or Lita. Okay. Watch for the survey. We have a couple of other questions in there too, asking about your interest in the app. So watch for this. It will have those rankings, and I will hand it back over to Morgan. Thank you everyone for your comments. That is exactly what we need. And I'm so excited to be able to start getting your input and make sure that not only are we building the features that you want, but we get your input into what the priorities are within those features and how they're built. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. And thank you everyone for contributing. A lot of great ideas. And I know we're really excited to see your responses on the survey. We want to know what is important to you. So next section, let's talk about the releases. So 2114 has released and 2115 is coming. So I don't know, Mark, do you want to speak to that at all?
You did. 2114's released. It's been out for a couple of weeks now. 2115, we will do the Aspen updates in an instant, December 2nd at 4 o'clock Eastern, and that will be the last one of the year. That code will then release out to, so it'll, following our normal procedure, it'll release to test systems as well as anybody in implementation that evening, and then the following Tuesday evening, it will release to everybody in production, which just gives people a little bit of time to do some additional testing, looking at it before it rolls to production for people that have both test and production systems. For 2022, we had a discussion here and maybe at the community as well, talking about the release schedule, and people wanted, we're just trying to make it a little bit more predictable and easier. So, and especially as we start bringing on, as Jordan was saying, some of those additional support companies and potentially additional developers. What we're looking at doing is we're planning to do one release a month, and then we can do additional point releases as needed. But we would do that the third Thursday would be the Aspen updates in an instant. Probably moving it to the morning just because it sounds like more people can make it at that time. And then the following Tuesday, it would go to production. So we just wanted to kind of make that more predictable for everybody. The 3-week-ish release cycle works really well for being able to get things out to y'all quickly, but can definitely be tricky for communication. So we just wanted to do that. The other thing that I'm going to share, we're working on enhancing our release notes as well for 2115. I'm just going to do a quick share screen so we can see that. So what we're looking at doing for 2115 is we just want to call out the things that once code is released, the things that we think you as administrators should check on. So like in this case, we've got, hey, we've got a new setting for OMDB that says, are you matching based off date or not? So check that, decide if you want to use it or not. If you're using OMDB, do you want to use the new Overdrive fulfillment interface? Some of those things, payment related things. Then we're going to have a list of all the changes. So this is the part that we normally have. And then testing suggestions. So if you're doing additional testing, whether that's on our test system or on your own test system, just some different things that you might take a look at. So we just want to call that out as areas that are changed that you might just want to verify, because we all have different data in our systems. And part of the trick with discovery is we're responding to all of that different data. So as Overdrive changes data and Hoopla changes data, and the ILSs have different data trying to respond to that. So looks like there's some chats. Looks like people like it. So any other feedback? One of the other things that we're thinking about adding, and I don't have an example of right now, is adding a specific list of all of the new settings that are being rolled out, so that you can say specifically like, okay, in Overdrive settings, there is a new setting for whether or not we're using the new fulfillment interface or not. So would that be helpful to people to have more call outs of the new new settings and that kind of thing. So sounds like yes. So we will work on doing that, and we'll figure out the best way to do that. And there will be more information at the next Aspen updates in an instant. So be back December 3rd or December 2nd.
Cool. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about release schedule or anything we just mentioned? Nice to see all the love in the chat. We were very excited when Mark showed us that kind of mock-up of what it is going to look like, because we're really excited. We think it'll just help you guys a lot. So hooray, yay Mark, yay developers. Okay, so just the last item real quick. I wanted to get this on the agenda at some point because Tara had submitted a ticket a while ago asking if we had any of our resources or marketing materials, things like that, translated into Spanish. And right now, we currently do not. We don't have any means of reliably, accurately translating those materials on staff. So I'm going to put it out to the community. Has anyone at your libraries created any materials about Aspen in Spanish or other languages? Anyone?
I have sought volunteers in our library, and I can't believe that out of 100 libraries, no one can do this. I think I just haven't. I just need to bother them some more.
Anyone else? Has anyone else explored that or wished for that even? Okay.
I have a question for you about that. So, like, are you talking about something specific, or like, I'm just confused. Like, is there like marketing materials that you're referring to, or you mean like in general as there's things to announce to the community?
So, and I'll let Kara speak if she has any specific requests, but what I understood it to be is we have, quick start guides and bookmarks and, just things that libraries can print out as is, or we have Canva templates that you can modify to match your own library's needs and branding, but we only have them in English. So that's what I understood Tara was asking about, if we had any of those resources in Spanish or other languages.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I mean, we have the resources to translate all that stuff, and so we we would do it if it was like a thing we wanted in Spanish, but then we could certainly share it with everybody, right?
Yeah.
And also other languages. We have like a formal certification process for bilingual staff, so they actually get tested and certified so that we can like believe in the quality of the product, you know. So that could be a thing that we do. In terms of like what languages we have certified staff for, and if it's like a material we're actually planning to use. I wouldn't want to use the staff time for a thing we aren't going to use, but like insofar as we are, like it's something we could give back.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. If you do ever pursue translating of, Aspen materials, whether it's, just basic marketing things or like how-to guides, we would love to share that out with the community if you want to do that. Okay, so yeah, if anyone has plans for that sort of thing, just reach out to us if there's anything you would like to share, because yeah, a lot of this is driven by you. And Sam has commented in the chat as well that someone at Wasatch has done some work. Okay, so maybe we'll reach out to him and see if they've done anything over at Wasatch.
I was also looking for the link, and I don't have it handy, to the Canva templates.
I don't know if I have it off the top of my head, but we can certainly, would it be okay if I posted it again in Slack? And that way everyone can see it again?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, I will follow up after this and I'll post link to the existing marketing materials and links to the Canva templates in the Slack channel. So you can all take a look at what we have again. But it is now been an hour. So thank you all so much for coming to the November Aspen Gathering. If you are celebrating holidays anytime soon, we wish you well. And yeah, thank you again for coming. We look forward to seeing you again next time.